Welcome, y'all, to another episode of EC Convos, the place to have cool conversations with cool people. Of course, my name is Eric, your host, and I truly appreciate you for checking us out. No matter where you're listening to this, don't forget, y'all, to like and subscribe to it, whether it be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, any of the other major platforms. That little piece, y'all, helps me grow this podcast to exorbitant amounts, and which is what the goal is and the ambition is to grow it. And don't forget to leave us a tip also by clicking the link below in the show notes, as it does help with keeping the lights on, as I said before, and keeping the conversations going as well. Now, for those who don't know, I absolutely love music. I love all forms of music, actually. One day I'll be listening to a meditative hymn, and then the next day I'll be listening to Lil Wayne. But one genre I'm a super fan of is yacht rock. You know, that soft rock music that makes you feel like you're on a boat somewhere, drinking a cocktail or a beer. I've always been fascinated with those songs and the making of the songs. So much so that I would go to the Wikipedia pages and read the background of the albums and the songs. Like, for instance, did you know Fleetwood Mac had major drama when they created their album Rumors? Go look it up. It's actually pretty wild. But I mainly listen because I've always been amazed by the instrumentation and how a song can be created out of thin air. Me being a fellow writer and creative, I know a thing or two about making something from nothing. And I can appreciate the hard work and dedication it takes to learn an instrument, to master the instrument, and also to create a sound that has never been heard before, all while making it look effortless. So I was excited to have a conversation with Michael Hemsworth. He graduated from college with a piano degree at the age of 18, and he decided to start a music school called New Song Music because he felt it was necessary to help others learn how to play an instrument. 22 years later, and with 1,400 students in multiple locations, he has definitely excelled at teaching his music makers, which is his students, young and old, how to begin and how to overcome the fear of playing, all while gaining the confidence to do so. Y'all, this conversation was so cool. 15 minutes into it, I realized I'd never even pressed the record button on the platform that I use. Luckily, I always have a backup just in case. Oh, also, a little bit of advice, y'all. Always have a backup. Always have a backup because you never know. But that just goes to show how down to earth and how dope Michael is. But as I always say, don't just take my word for it. Sit back and enjoy my conversation with Michael Hemsworth.
No, it's not my cup of tea at all. I'm a piano player at heart, and so I tell people all the time, like I hate cables. Audio, anything you have to plug in and mix is like terrible.
It's terrible, right, right, right.
A,
You're
a
more of the.
piano, it's on the stage. I tell them I don't even bring my own instrument.
Oh,
It's
really?
there waiting. It's waiting there. Well, I mean, because you can't obviously digital you can, but for really the traditional acoustic piano, you're reliant on what's already there for you.
That's true. That is true. That is true. Well, yeah. I mean, I do understand that you're more of the creative side of things versus the technical side. Just
Yeah,
let me get to the computer or to the piano and just let me play or something like that. You know
exactly.
what I mean? I do understand that being a fellow creative too. I am a filmmaker by hobby as well. Podcasting is something that I love to do also, but I mainly like to do filmmaking and whatnot. But I don't like I just like the creative process of it. I've done
Right.
everything from the directing to the producing and everything. I just like being able to write out the story, and then give it to someone else and let them act it out and direct it and whatnot. So I understand
Mm.
exactly how you feel.
Do you work in short films? Full length,
Yes,
all the above? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Short film. I have a love hate relationship with feature length films.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mainly a writer. My main thing that I love to do. Okay, see, in order of hierarchy, I love to write. That's number one. Podcasting is number two. Filmmaking is number three. And
Mm.
I have a. I've always felt when it came to writing, the shorter the better. I've always felt that if you can tell a really compelling story in less than 30 minutes, then you are really, really talented at what you do. Now,
Sure.
I do understand that, when it comes to feature length films, some things may need to be a little bit more drawn out, world building, things like that or whatever. But my love is short film. I love, love, love short film. And I actually like watching those more than I like watching feature films. So I'll
Sure.
go down a YouTube rabbit hole and, just go really, really crazy on short films and stuff.
Hmm.
So yeah, so no, I do. I love everything about the entertainment industry, creative and things. Even I love music too. I don't play anything. My daughter is actually now learning piano. Like she's learning how to play the piano. Because during 2020, during the pandemic, we ended up purchasing a piano because we were like,
Yeah.
you know what, we're in the house, why not? And
Right.
so
Well, I mean, you're not alone. We saw a huge uptick in 2021 of piano lesson takers. I mean, biggest I've ever seen in my career.
really,
Oh yeah.
that is insane. That is really really cool. And so and has that momentum continued on ever since then?
I mean, not in the same way. I mean, yes, in some of the retention piece, uh, in what I was doing professionally, our school had about a little over 400 students when we hit shutdowns in 2020,
Hmm.
and 2 years later we had 700. We didn't keep growing that fast year over year after that, but I mean, now between the four campuses, we've got 1,400 students. So,
Oh
you know,
wow.
it was not obviously we have not. It's not like it tanked and then they all went away, but it's never grown that fast in that period of time.
In that period of time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can understand that obviously again, people in a house, they want to do things that will occupy their time other than watching TV or, whatever. And so, you know, using this opportunity to take up some form of music education is paramount. I mean, to me, it's very
Mm-hmm.
important because that's one of the great ways that you can keep yourself sane. I would think, during
Mm-hmm.
this wacky time, during that wacky time or whatever. So that's
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
amazing.
and I tell people all the time, like you won't be playing soccer, when you're 80, but you can still play the piano. I mean, like this is literally something that is going to stick with you for life.
Right. Right. I have so many questions, Michael. I do. I do. I know we need okay, first of all, let me say this. Thank y'all for listening to another episode of EC Convos, where, we have cool conversations with cool people. My name is Eric. I like to consider myself a cool cat. And I have Michael with me. He is Michael Hemsworth, by the way. He is I don't know, is it okay to call you a musical savant, because you study piano. You graduated from college at 18.
I
So,
did. I did. I don't know. A musical savant feels like a pretty high, pretty high bar, um, but thank you.
yeah, and I mean, you're doing that and studying music for many many years. You have several locations for your oh, excuse me. You have several locations for New Song Music, which is your baby, I would think, and you
Yeah,
are growing it with over 1,400 students. You said now, right?
y- we do.
Wow, that is amazing. So thank you so much for being a part of EC Convos because I think this conversation is going to be really epic.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So, I really only have like a couple of questions to ask you, but I do want to kind of get the audience to know a little bit more about you. So, can you tell me a little bit more about you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. So it's funny that you call New Songs our music school. My baby. It actually started the year that we also had our first baby. So
Oh,
they
wow.
they are literally the same age. So
Nice.
as you mentioned, I finished my college degree when I was 18. I got married shortly thereafter, and I started my first business, and we had our first baby the year I turned 20. So I've been doing this now. This will be 23 years, both as a parent and as an educator and business owner for me.
Wow. That is amazing. Well, one, it's amazing because most businesses don't really last for a long period of time. But your business, New Song Music has withstood the test of time and been consistently in business for 22 years. That is an amazing feat in itself. And not only that, but you're also helping other people learn something completely new, or I guess it's safe to say you're also helping people who may have had some form of musical training and got out of it and want to get back into it. Is that good in saying?
Yeah, yeah, it's a very wide field. So I like to say a lot about our school that we are for all ages and all abilities because music is really not just it's not just one thing. And so for me personally, my day can go from playing egg shakers with 4-year-olds to playing, Beethoven sonatas with 17-year-olds. And they are both equally significant to me. It's a very interesting journey because a lot of times we do focus on the end product, and it's like we watch the teens that are amazing guitar soloists and the kids that are putting on these recitals.
Right.
But for me as well too, working with students on the spectrum and just mastering, like, I've been able to move to the steady beat. Like, I know what's happening inside of their brain, and it's firing and growing so much. And so it I sometimes think that other people, I wish they could see what I could see, because I think they look and they're like, well, the people they're just standing in a circle playing and singing a song, and I see this amazing brain development that's happening at so many stages with kids, even whether it's early or whether it's late. So I mean, this whole process is so enriching and fascinating to me.
Wow. So when you mentioned kids, teaching or training kids who are on the spectrum, are those the is that the certain group of people you tend to gravitate more towards, or is it just as you said before, like a wide spectrum of a wide range of people that are interested in learning?
It is pretty wide. I would say probably with our lesson programs, about 10% of the students that we work with have special needs.
Hmm.
We also do a lot of public school outreach, and so we are pushing into both neurotypical classrooms, K through sixth grade, as well as classes that have special needs in all different levels as well. And it's especially in the recent part of the journey just been very significant to me. So I insert myself quite a bit into those classrooms because it's also part of my learning and growing process too. Is 5 years ago I had a lot less experience working with the whole range of special needs, and so diving into that was also a big deal for me to, when I say all ages, all abilities, like
Right.
have the practical tools and skills to really, you know, to really do that, to put something behind that statement.
Right. Right. And I guess that and as you said earlier, that makes you grow as well because you're the thing about music, particularly, is that you're constantly having to learn. You never stop growing when it comes to things like that. So,
It's true.
I guess it's safe to say also with your level of teaching that also needs to continue to grow as well because
Hmm.
you're bringing in people who are from all walks of life, and you're inviting them into something that, although you may be a master in, you're you're teaching them how to become mastery as well, or become a master in their field or in whichever one they choose to use as well. So that is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And so piano isn't the only thing that you center around, right? There are other things as well that you can focus on, other
Yeah.
instruments as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my degree is in piano. So a lot of the private teaching that like New Songs 20 years ago was a piano school because that's the thing that I personally taught.
Right.
Our team is much, much bigger now. So that includes all different instruments and ages and all of those things as well, too.
Right. And I noticed that you had voice lessons on there as well.
Absolutely.
I am completely naive to this. So please pardon my ignorance when I say this, but I was always under the impression someone you were born with the gift of singing, and this was something that you were born with that gift and you can hone it. So with voice lessons, I guess this is something that you can actually train someone to sing and not and it, for instance, if someone wants to come in and learn how to sing opera, so
Hmm.
you new excuse me, new song music can actually teach that. Am I correct with saying that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Again, I'm completely ignorant to that, so please pardon me for that. But I didn't even know that that's something that can actually happen because I'm just so, I guess, so one dimensional in that type of thinking where I just thought that as a you're born with it. You're born with the gift of voice of an amazing voice. How long does it normally take for someone to, let's say, from complete beginner to, I don't know, let's just say an expert in opera and classical music?
Hmm.
How long would it
Hmm.
do you think it typically takes for just the average person to be able to hone their skills and to sing in live in front of an audience
Yeah. I
effectively?
mean, that is an incredibly difficult question because I think the first and foremost is what is a typical person?
True. That is, yeah.
You know, so and I think when you talk about some of these natural abilities as well too, some of that is that cognitive piece. You know, one of the early on things that we think is like matching a pitch, you know, that
Hmm.
some people naturally, you know, can hear a song and they sing it correctly, like what we call in tune. You know, their brain kind of caught that information quickly or early. Um, and other brains don't. But it's actually like very useful for all brains. And so singing is one of those things that I think is a really disservice in the way we see it now, that, you know, like in the age of American Idol, you know, their singers means great singers and everybody else is not a singer.
Right.
And that's really, I think, not true at all. You know, if you go back in time and imagine how much community singing was done, singing is really belongs to all of us, not the people that get record contracts. And so, you know, there's an early step that goes, well, I just want to be able to like be in pitch when sing at church, or I just want to be able to like be able to sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but sing it accurately.
Right.
And some people come in and their brain just lights up and they can already do that, you know, like, and so that doesn't really require a lot of intentional effort. But people that don't, you can do that with the intentional effort. You know, there, you could come in and what we would, very few people are what we actually, you know, we say tone deaf. Very few people are actually medically tone deaf.
Right.
Most people just don't know how to use what they've got. And so all of that is trainable. You know, there's the side of your brain, you know, like recognizing what you're hearing, and then there's the physical side of like your body is an instrument. And when it comes to things, something like opera, you know, that's a big thing too, is that to sing opera, you also have, you know, it's like, I don't know, like basketball. You know, yeah, maybe you can play basketball with not very much instruction, but if you want to like play professional basketball, there's actually just a lot of physical conditioning and repetition and skill and coaching that goes into that. So it's not terribly unlike, you know, other activities from that standpoint.
Right. Right. Okay. So and that's a great thing. I mean, that's I'm glad you cleared that up for me because again, you hit the nail on the head when it came to the basketball analogy because you're right. Some people are born with that natural talent, but when it comes to, you still have to apply effort in order for you to become a great basketball player, you know, and you still have to apply that level, some level of discipline, as I said earlier, effort, and continue to practice to get better and better and better. Because as you said, it, you know, things you have to learn how to hone your skills. So I like that. I really do like that.
Yeah. And the thing is, you know, you actually start to enjoy your activities even more sometimes the more work that you put into it.
Hmm.
You know, that going from, you know, okay basketball player to great basketball player, basketball actually gets more fun,
Right.
after you've done some of the hard work.
Right. And once you've learned the basics, or at least learned the fundamentals of it, and then you can continue to just move on and build from there.
Right.
Have you have you noticed any, or do you see which group would be? Well, let me go back a little bit. The Do you find it a little bit challenging for adults to learn a new instrument versus children? Because obviously with adults, we are like right now. I'm learning a new language, right?
Hmm.
And I've been working on it for about 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years, and I would sometimes find it a little bit more challenging to focus on learning said language. So do you find it a little bit more challenging for adults to learn how to play an instrument versus, let's say, a 10-year-old?
Uh, I think so. And I think it's on a lot of levels. I mean, I relate with you. I worked on Italian for the past couple of years in preparation for a trip to Italy.
Mhm.
And, like my one big accomplishments was I got there was I ordered gelato successfully in Italian. And my family laughed. They're like, "You spent 4 years on Duolingo just to be able to." I was like, "But you know what? I'm still proud of it."
Right,
So,
right,
um, so yes, I think the biggest challenge for adults is simply the mental gap where, if you're 7, you don't, the speed with which your body and your brain are getting to the future is more similar. And as an adult, your brain is already there. Like you're like, okay, well, I already can imagine what I want to be able to do right now. And my fingers can't catch up to my brain yet. And so
right,
there's that frustrating gap that adults are always feeling like they're behind or failing, but it's not true. They're just on the same trajectory that everybody else is. Like just because you're an adult in your mind doesn't mean that your fingers have any more physical skill to play the piano than the 7-year-old does. And so you have to have that same level of patience to let your skills catch up. And we tend to think just because we're adults suddenly everything should go faster, and just because we understand what we want to do that suddenly we should just be able to do it. And it's not really like that. You have to put the repetition in, you have to put the practice in. And um, and I think childhood is sometimes better suited to that. Like you have the time and the patience and all the other things around it to actually put in the repetition and to catch up your skill base. So I think that's where adults struggle the most. There's also the matter of habits that you have to build new habits, and
yeah.
when you're younger you have fewer bad habits to unlearn, and as adults we have more of them.
Right, right. Yeah, and then not only that, but we also have responsibilities.
We do.
As you said earlier, we have things that we have to, that other things that may take our attention away from locking in to learning whatever it is that you're trying to learn in that immediate time or whatever. And I'll be honest, also, Michael, I think fear has a little bit to do with it as well. The fear of not, or the frustration. Let me not say fear, but the frustration, because as you said earlier, the expectation is for us to be able to learn as adults. We get something done so quickly that we feel that, okay, everything should be received quickly, and no, that's not the case. That is one of the challenging things I'm learning with Spanish, is that I'm trying my best to learn it, and sometimes I'll get sidetracked or whatever, and then sometimes I'll just make mistakes, and then I get frustrated from said mistakes.
Hmm.
I noticed something. I went to your yeah, I posted something recently that said mistakes aren't the enemy of learning, fear is. And the most important instrument we have is our confidence. And
Hmm.
I think that falls in line with what we're talking about right now, is the fact that, it's the lack of confidence that a lot of adults, I would think, would have, and which is probably one of the reasons why some will just quit altogether and say, no, I don't want to do it anymore, because it's hard. It's too difficult. Right.
Right.
And so talk to me, like, how do you, when it comes to dealing with adults specifically, trying to learn, who get frustrated, who lack the confidence, talk to me about how you would help guide them into, one, getting back into the process again, and two, becoming a little bit more confident within themselves to be able to continue on.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Well, and I think honestly, adults and children face a different dynamic now in the kind of digital age as well, where the comparison game is so strong. And adults were wired for this, but kids are getting it too. Where even okay, I'm 10, but on on TikTok, there's all these other kids that can play piano amazing when they're 10, and so they're also getting a little bit more feedback of only seeing the like the best of the best in the highlight reels,
Yeah.
and not average 10-year-olds, because the average 10-year-old working on their piano lesson is not something that's going to show up on TikTok. And so sometimes there's that gap of not seeing other real normal struggle, and just seeing all the best and the brightest and the finished product, so to speak.
Right. They'll see the
So
highlight
so I,
reels.
yeah, we all face it there. And a lot of what you're talking about is just is the vulnerability of it. And I think music is awesome in that sense, in that it can keep us in some of that more vulnerable spot. You know, music is never a perfect, imperfect thing. I mean, like, I don't know if you ever get to finish performing something and say, okay, that was completely perfect.
Right.
Live music is just, it's not like recorded music, because you listen to an album and it's the same every time, and you play a song and it's never exactly the same every time. So it reminds you this human element that we get to experience, and you get to be vulnerable, and you get to, honestly, you make a mistake all the time when you play, but also you make a lot of mistakes and you don't die,
Right.
like,
Right.
whether it's performing for other people or just for yourself, like, you realize, okay, that was imperfect, but it was still good and it was still satisfying, and 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 that's okay. Like, I actually derived enjoyment or pleasure, or the audience enjoyed what I did, perfect or imperfect. So we get to sort of reinsert ourselves into that vulnerable spot quite a bit. And I do think, obviously, I'm a little biased as a music teacher, but I think that the music teaching process can be really huge in that too, because yes, like, you can learn off YouTube and you can learn off an online course, and there's certainly nothing wrong with the access that gives. But there's something very affirming when you have a teacher, you have another human being that, and that knows what they're doing, and they're actually looking at you saying, hey, good job.
Right.
I'm proud of you. That
Right.
we all need that. And so having being vulnerable and getting that kind of affirmation can, I think, build that virtuous cycle of being able to be more vulnerable and to make more tries and more mistakes, and get into that cycle versus the comparative cycle of somebody else did it better, I'm discouraged, I want to quit.
Yeah, I can understand that too, because you want to be able to, as you said, learn from the mistakes that you make. If you are doing a performance or something like that, you want to learn from, if you do make mistakes, you want to learn and get better and better and better throughout time.
Hmm.
And that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
the anxiety of trying to be perfect is is crippling. I mean, it
It
really
is.
is. And so I'm so proud of, like, 8-year-olds when we stick them up on stage to play in a recital, and they play Mary Had Little Lamb, in a mediocre way, because they've been so vulnerable and survived it. And so they've learned some things about playing the piano, but they've learned something so much more valuable about themselves and their ability to overcome fear and to do stuff.
Right. Because that's a lot of times the majority of the battle that you're facing is the fear itself, and not
It
any
is.
other outside circumstances. It's the fear of
Right.
messing up, the fear of not being perfect, and the fear of just doing a bad job in front of people, whether it be one person, whether it be 10 people, whatever. So if you can actively overcome that, then you're unstoppable. And like as you said before, with the 8 year olds, you know, once they overcome that one thing, then they can go all out with it, and they can learn a lot more, and they can feel a lot more confident whenever it is time for them to perform again.
Hmm.
Wow. So there's this YouTube group, a group on YouTube, and they're called the Greystones. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but
No.
it's a group of, I want to say they're in between the ages of 7 and maybe 12. And I think it's maybe like six of them or whatever. But all of these are little kids and they're performing songs. And I'm talking about at a high level. So
Hmm.
I'm talking about performing "Hold the Line" by Toto, right?
Hmm.
Or they did one with Sade. It was a song by Sade they also did, and they did a song by Queen. And I'm
Hmm.
thinking to myself, these are toddlers,
Right.
like young kids or whatever, and they're performing at such an amazing level. And not only that, but they're actually performing outside too, to crowds and whatnot, and the crowds are fascinated by them. And so that is the magic of music, right? Is that anyone can learn how to play, and not only can you learn how to play, the more you get better with it, the easier it becomes for you, and the easier it becomes for you, the more you still want to learn more about it. Because I think things like this is unlimited, right? When it comes to playing
Right.
the piano, it's unlimited. You always need to learn something, or there's always something to learn, is what I meant to say. And so I think music is always has been the universal language. And if you can learn how to play and how to play efficiently, and not stop learning and keep growing, keep going, and keep moving upward towards it, you'll be unstoppable.
Right.
Man.
Well, and one of the things I love about music too is this very multisensory nature.
Hmm.
And where you talk about keep growing, because for instance, am a very visual learner. So reading sheet music was one of those things that went easier or faster for me, which
Hmm.
works great as a classical musician, as a college music major. Like these things, definitely fueled that part of the process where you could hand me a piece of paper and I could play it, yeah, you know, pretty quickly. On the flip side, y- you know, I got into situations where then I I got hired on to play for musical rehearsals, and they would just hand me a couple of chord charts, and they'd hum the tune, and basically would be expecting that I would do a, more or less play by ear,
Mm.
which is essentially a completely different skill. It's like you can't say, well, you just play the piano, you play the piano. It's like saying you speak a different language, and I speak Spanish and you speak Italian, and then so then you hand them the other language.
Right.
It's almost like going back to ground zero.
Right.
So I love as a teacher even tapping into the fact that, okay, I've not only worked with students that are strong visual learners like me, but I've worked with students that are strong auditory learners. And again, that does force me to learn, okay, there's a range of tactics and strategies here, even just for playing the same instrument or even the same song. And being able to not just take one pathway and say, okay, here's the book, read the book, do the song, but to say, okay, if your superpower is something different than mine, we can use your superpower instead, and we can get and I'm gonna show you how to just memorize it because your musical memory is so strong. And I love having my book, and you love what's in your ear and in your mind, and we can use them both. So it's great as a like I'm always growing, and it's also great for kids that struggle in one vein to really understand that they do have things that they're really good at too. You know,
Right.
if if they're bad at math, sometimes there's not a lot of alternate strategies. They've got to just really slog through it. But if they're not good at reading music, but they can like play songs by ear, like they actually get to jump ahead and they have something impressive or special about their own skill set. And so music lets you really look at the whole range and let them uncover what they're uniquely good at and then build on their success.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of knowing that there's multiple ways of being able to get to the finish line. Um, do you see more people learning sheet music versus playing by ear in your studios?
We see a big mix. I would say that, we have somewhat classical underpinnings.
Hmm.
So there are definitely schools that are very heavily kind of devoted to pop and rock music. And so those things live more comfortably there. And so we are not a school where it's like all rock and roll, but we're comfortable with the whole range.
Right, right. Okay, that's good. That's really good because because you can teach everything, and it's not
Yeah.
just one thing, one dimensional or anything like that.
Yeah,
This.
because I think that that's tough when, um, again, sometimes you think of music as one thing, and
Hmm.
so you pick a classical piano teacher, the stereotype of the grandma that teaches piano, and she gives you your book, and there's a structure there, and and if you just want to like play Queen the chords to the Queen songs, like you're at a mismatch, and sometimes that appears like, well, not good at music, but that's not really true. In the book I wrote last year, I talk about this a lot because I actually quit my first instrument, which,
Really?
like as yeah, now as a music teacher, it's if you look at my actual starting of music education, it was a disaster. So when I was in fourth grade, I joined the band at school, and my dad had played the trumpet, so he owned a trumpet still. So I played the trumpet, and I didn't make it, I think, more than about 6 or 8 weeks in school band playing an instrument. I I thought the band teacher was grumpy. I hated learning in a big group. I honestly didn't like the trumpet all that much. You know, all of the things about my learning style were not met by this. But that didn't mean that, like, oh, well, I'm not musical,
Right,
clearly. It just meant that playing the trumpet in school band with a grumpy teacher is not the right place for me to be musical. And so, fast forward and find the piano and find a private piano teacher, and like these things unlocked the things that were actually right for me. And then of course the rest is history, as they say.
right, right. I want you to talk about the book a little bit more too, because I know you said that it came out not too long ago, or you're not working on it anymore. It's actually out now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
out
So
last year.
so what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So having done this for so long, I had a lot of thoughts about being successful in music education. And so I really thought about all of the parents that I'd worked with in the past 20 years, and especially about, I meet so many parents that actually now grew up in a generation where they also didn't get music education.
Hmm.
So mo I would even say most parents come in and they have this sense that, okay, I want my kid to take piano lessons or take music lessons or whatever. And I know that it's sort of good in a nebulous sense, but I don't, but then I feel sort of lost, like, you know, so help them do their thing. And really, as a parent, the parent still has so much of the power in making that successful or unsuccessful.
Hmm.
And I think they often just feel the loss. So I really wanted to give parents a little bit of a, like what's happening under the hood for your child, so that you feel empowered to be a part of this process. Kind of that, like some of those things, if your child is struggling reading music in music lessons, that doesn't always mean they're they don't like music and you should quit. You know, it it just might mean that that's not their dominant learning style,
Right.
or it's not the style of learning, like learning one-on-one versus learning in a group. There are so many different approaches. So putting the power back in a parent's hands to say, okay, what can you understand about the process of learning and developing that's happening, and some of the choices that you can make helping a child with music education, so that rather than get frustrated and burn out and quit, you can navigate the pathway successfully. Because I've met thousands and thousands of adults that say, oh yeah, I took piano when I was a kid and I quit for blah 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 reason, and I really wish I hadn't. I mean, like, I get that story
Mm.
constantly. And I understand. I mean, like, I've also watched thousands and thousands of families while they're in it, and their kid is frustrated, like they're having trouble at school, or they're too busy with soccer, or any number of reasons, and I've seen them quit, and I just know that they're so many of them are going to end up as those adults in their 40s saying, "Oh, like I kind of wish I hadn't given up the guitar." Um, and but people don't know how to solve the problems oftentimes, and so this is my humble advice on how to solve some of those problems.
The beautiful thing about it is you're providing the tools for parents who have kids who are interested in learning music, learning some form of music or whatever. You're providing them the tools, and you're giving them like not necessarily the instructions, but you're giving them a blueprint on how to be able to recognize that something may be amiss and also how to fix it.
Yeah.
That's that's very interesting because you're right. People, as we said earlier, like which I know you get it countless of times that people say to you, "Well, no, I did it before when I was 15 or whatever, and I just got out of it. I just didn't have time for it, and now we really wish I can do it again." So now you're giving them the tools, so if they have children, they can learn some of maybe the disparages of whatever they had to go through, or disparities of what they had to go through or whatever, and you can help them try to build and become or build and teach their kids and make sure that their kids are on the right trajectory and make sure that they are prepared, because there will be times when people do want to quit because it's not it's not fun and games all the time. So I love the idea of the book. I want to get a copy of that because I feel my daughter may end up wanting to quit piano, but if I can be taught how to recognize the signs that something may be that her learning may be a little bit different, then I want to get that book. So I'm definitely going to buy it.
Yeah, it don't worry, it'll come your way. It's Amazon, and I recorded the audiobook myself. So
Oh,
um
nice.
so it's on audiobook on most audiobook platforms as well too.
Okay, okay. I do want to switch gears a little bit, which brings me to the last question that I have for you. Um, what grinds your gears right now, given everything that's going on, or given it's just whatever? What grinds your gears at this moment?
Oh, I mean, I think the lack of access to music education and the arts, in so many ways, that I think kids need, for so many reasons, to have the arts in their lives. I think that they need these creative outlets. I think they need the the grit and tenacity of learning the piano, not over 6 months, but over 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, and experiencing kind of that long-term growth that happens within them. It's not just what you can master overnight, but the things that happen slowly over time, and all the connections that music brings. Well, the connections that bring between students, that you put more kids in band, and you put more kids in orchestra, or any of those things, and it builds a greater level of tolerance and social awareness, and you don't have to like just be talking about things like bullying or acceptance all the time. It automatically reminds them of some of the shared reliance that we have on each other, when you literally have to rely on the people around you to make music together. So I think that when I go to a school and there's 900 kids, but there's only 14 kids in band
Mm.
or something like that, that there's so many people that then are thinking, okay, well, I'm not musical, either because I haven't had the chance to try it, or like, or I'm too intimidated, I'm too scared. And I just think all of us need some of those experiences. And we're not all going to go on and become concert musicians or any of those things, but you need to know that, hey, if you want to sing at karaoke night, it doesn't matter if you're the best one or not, but you can participate. Or if you want to get up and like, if you want to go out dancing, like, you can do it. You can move your feet in it to the beat, sort of thing. there's just so many ways that we need the permission to participate, to say yes, and things like music light that up. And I just, so many kids that don't have the access to do it, don't get the chance to participate on a regular basis. I think we're doing a great disservice.
You would think having, especially when it comes to schools, having these sort of extracurricular activities, or having something like a band or something like a choir or something, will would be glorified at the schools, right? Because it's helping them become more creative, it's helping them, remove themselves from the streets, or from, bad intentions or whatever.
Mhm.
But you're absolutely right. I've seen countless of times where, especially here in Texas, where music education is being removed completely from the curriculum, simply because, one, they may not have the funding for it, or two, they may not have the participation.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I agree with that. I think the having music, because again, as we said before, music is a universal language,
Mhm.
and having that in schools is extremely important. For many ways, as you say, it helps with confidence, it helps with fear, whatever fear that they're facing or whatever. It helps them remove themselves from the day to day life of middle school, high school, or whatever, that, all the nonsense and negativity that goes on there. And for it to be removed is a travesty, in a lot of schools. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I will say too that I think that sometimes there's an all in or all out bit. Like my son takes drum lessons at our school,
Hmm.
and I sometimes laugh because, you know, my kids are not like the model music students. I mean, I love my kids and I think that they're doing exactly what they need to do, but like my son doesn't practice the drums every day. He doesn't.
Hmm.
So when you think of like, oh, what would a quote unquote good music student be doing, and what would it look like? He's not doing everything a music teacher would want, but that's okay. I mean, he and his teacher and I all have this shared understanding that it's a valuable part of his life. And it's not like he only gets to take drum lessons if he's quote unquote serious about it and he's, going to do something in his life with it.
Right.
Even if even if he just goes to drum lessons, connects with his teacher for 30 minutes, has a trusted adult, they play some jazz, like that is something that he values and enriches his life, whether or not he ever joins a band or becomes a famous drummer or any of those things. It's not an all or nothing game.
Right. It's something that he can just. It's just something that's additional to whatever his normal life would consist of.
Right.
And as you said, it helps build character, it helps build confidence, and it helps build, just discipline and everything.
Hmm.
I mean, there's so many
Hmm.
there's so many positives about music, about learning music, and about teaching music and whatnot. So that's, oh man, I just really wish that the schools and would focus more on some type of music education.
Yeah.
Man,
Well, and my kudos to parents because of the way it is, we don't have a lot of societal structure that puts it back in.
right,
So it is so much on parents in order to kind of open the gateway there. And that's one of the things that kind of, is difficult in my position too, because there is an element of elitism in music.
right,
Having
right,
parents that can drive you to lessons or having enough extra income to actually own an instrument in your house. Like not everybody has that. So there's not real equality when it comes to music in many ways. We're working to make it as equal as we possibly can, but there's there's built-in issues with that. But it is, kudos to the parents,
yes,
because all the parents that, pay the money for the lessons or remind their kids to practice when they're too busy, or you know uh, sit with them when they're frustrated or go through this process. It is never easy or straightforward. So the parents that really enable their kids, I mean, for me, huge applause to them, because that is what makes this possible. And so parents like you, like, pat yourself on the back, because I think you're doing something huge for your child. And it doesn't feel huge always, in the
Hmm.
week in and week out. But from my perspective, it is a lifelong gift.
Thank you, and you're right. It makes an impact. The thing about kids is whenever you are, as children, obviously you want them to listen and you want them to remember the things that you teach them and that you help them with and parent them on. And eventually as they get older they do remember those things. So
Hmm.
being a student, or being in music, and like for her, she's, like as I said, learning the piano. She's trying to also learn Korean, and so continuing to encourage her, continuing to push her, and say, no, you set time to do it, get it done, and just take your time, do it. It's only 30 minutes. It's only 1 hour. You'll have the rest of the day to do whatever you choose to do or whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, I thank you for that. Yeah, because it is something that is a, we know that the payoff is going to be a lot better in the long run.
Yeah.
So
And it takes you full circle, because that's why adults struggle more, because we have to also be that for yourself.
yes,
As a kid, hopefully you have a parent that also helps encourage you along, because we all need that. And
yes,
as an adult, we often don't have that. So you have to be your own encouragement.
that's true. Look, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right about
exactly.
that.
Exactly.
So I have one bonus question to ask.
Yeah.
If you had one thing you can recommend to the audience, whether it be a movie, TV show, book, a song, whatever, what would you recommend to them and why?
Oh, wow. Okay, can I say two?
Sure, sure.
Okay, it's cheating. My all-time my all-time hero is Mr. Rogers. So, I mean, I would tell you go watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, because that is, a personal hero of mine. I recognize that this is an audience of adults and probably watching old television programs of Mr. Rogers might not be your deal.
Right.
So, a real one would be Ted Lasso.
Mm.
Um, Ted Lasso is for me a classic, and to always be curious and not judgmental for me is a lifelong goal.
Oh, nice. And to always be positive because I do love Ted Lasso. He is positive, or he always looks at the bright side of things too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Nice, nice. Michael, thank you so much for this conversation. I really, really, truly appreciate it. So
my pleasure.
where can they find you?
All right. So if you are in the Sacramento area, we're in Central California. I have a couple of music school locations. We are newsongsmusic.com. The book that I wrote, newsongsmusic.com/manual, because the book is called Mr. Michael's Music Maker Manual. That's what kids call me, Mr. Michael. That's what I call them, music makers. And the manual part is, how to get it done. So Mr. Michael's Music Maker Manual is on Amazon. It's on most audiobook streaming platforms, and on our website if you want to just find all those links, newsongsmusic.com/manual will also direct you to all those things as well.
Perfect. I am purchasing one of the books today whenever we get off the call.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you so much again, for this conversation. I really appreciate it, Michael. And that's it, guys. We will see you the next time on EC Convo. So until the next time, peace.
Take care.